Hello everyone, this is Sorvesteon coming to you with my first impressions of Naval Action. This game is in its alpha, so I imagine there's a lot the developers want to add. But since it's available on Steam now as an early access, and it does cost $39.99 to get that early access, I'm going to be providing you a look at the game and my impressions as it is now as a playable title. So let's get into it, shall we? Naval Action is set in the time of the tall ships. It is a persistent open-world sandbox MMO that uses instancing for battles. It features a few different servers, catering to PvEers and PvPers alike, but it seems this game puts a heavy emphasis on PvP, community, and a player-driven economy in much the same way EVE Online does. This game is beautiful, no doubt about it. They have paid special attention to detail. From easing and trimming the sails to change speed, to having people on deck manning the guns and such, to the rolling of the waves. The game even has a day and night cycle with beautiful red sunrises and sunsets and changing weather. The boat creaks and you can hear the slapping of the waves against your hull. But the downside is that it's not that optimized. I found that I had to turn the graphics down to medium to get a decent frame rate. Where I can get 35 to 60 frames per second in World of Warships or EVE Online on maximum settings, in Naval Action I'm lucky if I can maintain 25 frames per second. So if you have to have the most beautiful look possible, then you're going to need a pretty hefty machine to run this game on maximum settings with a good frame rate. When you first jump into the game, you're going to hit the ground running with little or no idea of what you're doing. There is absolutely zero in-game tutorials or documentation to help you get the swing of things, so you'll have to learn the game through trial and error and by seeking out help from other players, either through the chat, forums, or YouTube. That being said, in its current form, this is not a newbie-friendly game, and everything will take practice and time to get proficient at, from simple navigation to the intricacies of combat. As this game is an alpha, I hope that they get around to providing some introductions to help new players get acquainted with the mechanics of the game, as it would surely be very helpful. You're first asked to create a new character and side with a particular nation, whose ships you will be limited to for the rest of the game with that character, and which will also determine the difficulty of the game as you start out. After that, you'll be presented with a very minimalistic port interface. Again, this is only the alpha version, so it's reasonable to assume that this UI will get flushed out more and get better as the development of the game progresses. Once you hit the sail button, you'll get plopped down into the ocean at your starting port, also with no introduction to the movement or combat mechanics. Moving is intuitive enough though, as it uses the basic WASD, but it took me a little bit to figure out how W and S relate to the different speeds, and whether I had to hold down W or just press W once or twice to get up to full speed, as a ship doesn't immediately react to your commands, as the sails first need to be eased by your crew, and likewise, trimming the sails takes a bit of time, so you won't immediately start slowing down. Once you get underway, you're pretty much free to go wherever you want, which is great. I like that you have total freedom to move about the Naval Action world without being confined or restricted. The map doesn't show you your position relative to the islands and landmarks on it, so while it will tell you what the game world looks like, it won't tell you exactly where in the game world you are, and I found this to be a bit intimidating, but delightful. It means that you'll have to use your own sense of direction, the compass, and the landmarks to get around. I actually hope they don't change this, as it makes navigation a skill and provides incentive to get to know the game world. The first big issue I had was actually just getting into the action. Sure, sailing around at first was fun, but it quickly got boring when I realized that that was all I could do. I tried attacking some random enemy NPC ships I came across, but every time I tried, it told me my BR rating was too low. This was like running into a wall for me. I had expected the enemy NPCs in that area to be around my ability to take on, and while it was nice that they didn't attack me, being unable to get into combat was frustrating. At a loss, I turned to the global chat, and the people there were helpful enough to point me in the direction of the game's missions, which basically function as quests. But to access these quests, I first had to annoyingly return to the closest port. Once I obtained a mission, I then headed out and opened my map, to which I found a cross sword symbol marking the location, which I then had to make my way to. There is nothing to help lead you there, so again, you're on your own for finding the location in the middle of the ocean and getting close enough to it to enter the instance. Upon entering the instance, you are pitted against a similar or smaller ship in a 1 versus 1 duel. This can be a bit daunting, and in my case, I found the NPC won on my first few attempts, as I slowly learned about the combat. The combat is truly deep and complex compared to World of Warships, and that is one of the joys of this game. You'll get a hold of the basics relatively quickly, but this feels like a game where you'll spend a lifetime mastering the combat. One of the things that really bothered me was when I went into firing mode by clicking the right mouse button, which takes you down to the deck of the ship to aim your cannons. But when you fire your cannons, your vision of where your cannonballs are going becomes completely obscured in smoke, so I couldn't see in the slightest how my shots were missing and how to correct my aim. And it can take over 30 minutes to finish just one 1 versus 1 duel with an NPC. This made it relatively frustrating, as it was basically 30 minutes of me losing without any idea of how to improve my skill. There were also a lot more tools for combat like repair kits and crew focus, but these are not explained, so I really didn't have much idea what they did, nor does the interface do a good job of telling you when you've activated one and what its effect was or is. This isn't a game where you can just point and shoot and expect to win. There is a lot more to maneuvering your ship and tactics, as well as player skill, required to become successful, so expect a big learning curve right off the bat. The game features a fully player-driven economy centered around a single central auction house system, with crafting and trade runs available. Crafting skill needs to be leveled up, but it sounds like crafting will be a big moneymaker in the mid to later parts of the game. There is also the option to be a pirate and to capture other people's ships and sell them, so the economy seems to be pretty diverse, offering lots of different paths to suit different playstyles. I'm going to keep playing this game as I like the challenge, and I hope that as the beta and final release versions come out, that the game will get a lot better and many of the problems I mentioned will get resolved. I also really hope that they optimize the game to make it more playable on lower to mid-range machines. As it stands right now, though, I'd have to say that this game is far from complete and may be really frustrating for newcomers to get into. But once you do get the hang of it, it looks like it's going to be a very fun and immersive experience. So that's it for my first impressions of Naval Action. Like I said, I'm going to continue playing the game and I'll be making more videos about it. If this hasn't enticed you to give it a try, I hope to see you in the game later when it officially launches. For now, take care and happy sailing.